Hello, good evening. Sandy Levesque here from Become the Change. This is a weekly web show dedicated to three things: using the internet and social media tools to start to actually have an impact in the world and online, becoming the change that you want to see, obviously because of the name, becoming the change that you know is possible, and whatever that means for you, and also focusing on solutions, focusing on things that would be a positive addition to the world, not just kind of, getting angry about problems and things you want to fix. And so thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. My name's Sandy Levesque. And I actually started to do this show because I realized that there was a lot of people that care a lot about the world, care a lot about the state of the world. And it's not to say that, we think that the world is like this horrible, negative place. But sometimes I think we just have this awareness, this sense that there could be some things different here. And I spent a long time fighting things as they are, fighting the system as an anti-poverty campaigner, an anti-sexism and violence against women campaigner. And after getting seriously ill, I realized that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I made a commitment to myself to start to see the world differently, to start to focus on what I loved about the world and what I knew I could help to bring to the world. So welcome to the show if it's your first time watching, or if you're you're a regular. I would love to hear from you. So we've got the Q&A working, so you're welcome to leave a hello or a question. And today's topic is actually really exciting because it's actually inspired by an amazing book which has sold over, I think, 500 million copies in the world, been translated into about 40 different languages. It's Chickensoup for the Soul, a personal development book full of stories about people who've changed their lives. And what's interesting about that book is that it's become a massive runaway success, but it didn't actually start out that way. The book was refused by editors and publishers 40 different times. And what I'm going to show you in the course of the next little time we have here together is how those authors of Chickensoup for the Soul managed to get it from being rejected 40 times to becoming a New York bestseller and becoming one of the most popular personal development books on the planet. And they did something really specific, which is what I hinted at in the description for tonight's Hangouts, the rule of 5. So I'm going to show you what they did, how they did it, how they selected what they did, so that you can look at whatever it is you're creating, whether it's your own business or a project or a book or some kind of idea, and you can find your own rule of 5, which will allow you to create a set of daily steps that you take every day to help you move to where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be a massively long list, but what I'm going to share with you is a critical element a lot of people miss. So you're going to take away from this web show a clear sense of what steps you should be taking, you could be taking, and how to actually make sure that they take you where you want to go. Okay, so Chickensoup for the Soul. I'm actually going to share my screen so that you can see some stuff I have prepared for you, because I'm very visual. I find it easier to take in information when I can also see what's going on. So I'm a bit of a geek. I have prepared some slides. But basically, let me just quickly share my screen here, and then you can see what I'm talking about. So Chickensoup for the Soul. If you've read the book, you'll know it's an amazingly, amazingly viral book, you could say, because so many people, I haven't actually read it, I have to say, but I've heard about it a lot. In fact, I think I'm actually going to just have to get it because I've heard about it so much. And this topic is really, inspired by it. So let's go to the slide. So the rule of 5. This is actually what the authors of Chickensoup for the Soul did to make their book become a bestseller. So as I said before, the book started out being rejected by over 40 different publishers. And a lot of people at that point would have just given up and would not have wanted to keep going, wouldn't have thought it was worth their while. I'm actually going to set up my photo booth so that I can still see you guys. And would have decided that was it. The book just was not meant to be. But what happened with the the book we're talking about here, has decided, no, I'm not going to give up. We're not going to stop here. We're not going to take all these rejections as an obstacle and just turn around. We're going to just find a way around it and keep going. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hello. Right. So hopefully you can still see me here, and you can see the slides. Okay. So what they did was they decided to. They actually finally got a publisher. So they kept trying different publishers over and over until they actually got one. And once they'd got one, they then had to work out how to make sure the book became a bestseller, because they knew that the publishers probably wouldn't make that happen. I've actually heard several different people talk about this, that, you know, even if you get your book into a book deal, it doesn't guarantee actually that you'll hit success, because a lot of publishers don't put that much money into the marketing, and a lot of bestsellers have to sort of do their own thing to make sure the book is actually bought and becomes a New York Times bestseller, or, you know, is on the tables in bookstores when you go in. And so Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, and this is the book that we're talking about, decided to interview 10 best-selling authors. So they interviewed them, and they got all the tips and stories of what the other authors had done to actually become successful. And so after they did that, they got a little bit overwhelmed, because they had so much information and so many different things they could do. They didn't really know, you know, what to do first. And they also bought a book called 1001 Ways to Market a Book. And they actually put each way up on a Post-it note and put it in their office and said, okay, we're going to do each one of these over the next year. But what they did, and this is what this whole hangout is going to show you and share with you, was they, rather than just go all over the place and get overwhelmed and try loads of different things and have no real sense of direction or focus, they decided to do something called the Rule of 5, okay? And what this was is that it's a little bit like felling a tree. So let me just come back to this. When you want to cut down a tree, anyone who knows anything about cutting down trees, I'm not sure how much you do, I mean, I'm not exactly an expert, but, but if you want to cut down a tree, you won't just take an axe and try and cut down the whole tree in one go, you know, unless you're, I don't know, Goliath or Thor, and you're some kind of giant or Godzilla. It's just not going to work, really, is it? You're not going to get, look at that massive trunk here that I'm showing you on the screen right now. You wouldn't get anywhere, really. You'd maybe chip the bark, but that would be it. And so what was explained to them was that any kind of creative endeavor, you know, a business, a project, a book, marketing a book, it's like a tree. It's like cutting down a tree. And I don't really like to use that metaphor very much, because I actually love trees so much that I don't really want to, you know, think about cutting them down. But for the purposes of what we're talking about here, it's just quite useful. So let's say you do have to cut down a tree because it's, I don't know, it's going to fall on someone's house otherwise, or something like that. Then just taking one swing at it isn't going to work. But if someone took a swing at it 5 times a day and kept back and doing that each day, eventually that tree would come down. Eventually, those 5 swings a day would create enough of a gash in the tree trunk that it would fall down. And eventually, all those accumulated efforts would reap their rewards, because the tree would be felled. It would come down to the ground. And what was explained to them was that it's like that with a business or with any creative project, that if you can create a very specific set of daily steps that you take every day, you will fell your tree. You just have to keep going until you do. You know, you will get there. And obviously, this isn't to say that they have to be cast in stone and you can't change them, but having a clear set of steps that you know, if you do them and you do them consistently, that's the really key thing, that they'll get you there, then that can be your ticket to wherever you want to go. And so Jack and Mark Victor Hansen listened to this, and they came up with their own set of 5 things. Hello again, moving across the screen here, for their project. So I've actually got them here. So this was their New York bestseller, Rule of 5 Action Steps, because initially they didn't have the target of becoming one of the most successful books of all time. They just wanted to hit that New York Times bestseller list, which is actually a little bit of a tricky challenge for most authors, unless they have a history or a background. And this was their first book, so wasn't exactly going to be easy. But what did they do? Well, this is the steps that they came up with. They decided to have 5 radio interviews every day, to send out 5 books to editors every day, to call 5 network agencies, I think this is TV network agencies, and ask them to buy the book for their salespeople. And I'll share something in a second actually about that. Then they decided to give seminars to at least 5 people and sell the book at the back of the room, and to follow up with people who'd read the book. Okay, so those were their 5 steps. And they did this every day for 2 years. And then within 14 months, the book hit the New York Times bestseller list, because they reached that critical, like with the tree, the tree just came down. They hit #1 on the list that they had been focusing on for so long. And so what's interesting about their steps is that, they didn't just do really easy stuff like show the book to one person, send a copy to be reviewed. They sent 5 books, 5 radio interviews every day. They called 5 TV agencies and asked them to buy their book for the salespeople. They gave seminars to at least 5 people and sold the book at the back of the room. And they followed up with people who've read the book. So what they were doing is they were offering to give free seminars about the book to whoever could organize them. And then they would always bring copies of the book with them. So just think how powerful that is. If you were doing this every day for 2 years, how much further do you think you could get than if you just did, a few things here and there, but didn't have this kind of consistent action to it? It would be completely different, wouldn't it? And what's fascinating is that one of the things that leapfrogged the book was they were doing this, calling 5 TV agencies and asking them to buy the book for their salespeople. And actually, one of the people who was given a copy of the book at a TV station passed it on to someone who passed it on to someone. And long story short, it ended up in the hands of a top producer who got them on a huge show in the States. I think it was the Today Show, but I'm not 100% sure. But long story short, they basically, because of doing this, they got onto a massively popular show, and that helped the book helped get the book exposed to millions of people who wouldn't have probably heard of it otherwise. So what they were doing is, the book is about personal development. It's a personal development book, but they weren't limiting themselves just to personal development people. They would go wherever anyone would organize an event. They were calling all kinds of TV agencies. They were sending out 5 books to editors, newspaper editors, magazine editors, book reviewers, and calling 5 radio stations a day and having interviews. It doesn't mean that they were calling them up and having an interview the same day, but you can imagine that they were calling up 5 radio stations and doing what they could to organize an interview with each one. And the thing is with the media, that the media is constantly looking for material. So you'd be amazed, actually. I used to work with the media a lot as a campaigner and an activist. And a lot, it depends on who you're talking to, but you'd be amazed at how much easier it is than some people think to get onto a radio station or a TV station if you have a good story, if you have something interesting, like a new book, especially one with a catchy name like Chickensoup for the Soul. So they were doing these 5 things every day, and it's what got them to #1. So just have a look at that, because what could you do that would get you to your number one. You know, maybe you don't want to have a New York Times bestseller. Maybe you want to build a nature reserve, or become an internet, mogul. I don't know, become a vet. But what could you do 5 times a day that would, 5 steps in a day that would get you to that point? And something I wanted to mention is that, it doesn't have to be totally linear, because oftentimes people think, well, what's the point in me sending out 5 books to editors, because probably a lot of those editors won't like the books. But actually, what you're doing when you're doing actions like this is you're not counting on each specific action creating a result. You actually disconnect yourself from the result that you're looking for, and you take enough action that somehow one of those actions is going to hit the jackpot. It's like if you were going out fishing. You know that each time you throw your bait into the water, each spot you go fishing at isn't necessarily going to catch you a massive salmon or a massive trout, whatever you're fishing. But by the number of times that you're going out there, putting yourself out there, that you're going to hit one. You're going to finally get a fish. You're going to have one that bites the bait and wants to eat it, that you can catch. It's the same with this. If you see it too linearly, you might rule out a lot of things that could actually just help you get there. I see it like this. It's like you start to build a wave. I live near the ocean now, and almost every single day I love to go out and just watch the waves. And it's really fascinating to watch when you live near an ocean with intense waves. Like, I live near the Atlantic. I used to live near the Mediterranean, which was very flat. It's a sea, it's not an ocean. And you didn't really have that many waves. But here we have massive ones. There are surfers out all the time. I just realized I was looking at the wrong place. And so when you watch a wave, what happens is the ocean is basically flat. And then suddenly you start to see like a swell come out of the water. Surfers call it a swell. And it's almost like you just can sense that, oh, there's some power there, because suddenly this shape starts to come out of the water. It gets bigger, and then as it moves forward, it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's getting more powerful to the point where it's going to just break, and it will just then crash and go to the shore, and then the cycle starts again further behind. And that's obviously how surfers catch waves, because they watch when that swell is starting to go, and they start paddling fast, and then they get on the surfboard, and just as the wave is getting big, they catch the momentum, literally catching a wave. And I think when you're doing these 5 actions a day, you create your wave. It's not that each single step is going to get you a massive result. It's the accumulation of those steps. It's like with the tree. You're not taking one swing at that tree because that's going to be the swing that fells the whole thing. You're taking a swing at it because that the more swings you take, the more chance you're eventually going to cut down the tree. And it's the same with Edison, Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. He was not a scientist. I found this amazing the first time I ever discovered that. He was not a scientist. He had very little schooling, came from very humble beginnings. But he just decided that he was going to create an incandescent light bulb. And you probably know this story. He tried 10,000 times until he finally got the right design. And I didn't actually believe that the first time I heard it. I thought, oh, that just sounds like a good story. I bet it's not actually true. But I've actually researched it, and it is true. He would try every single day, take a nap if it still wasn't working, and he just kept going because he knew that eventually he would get to the right one. And so each time he failed, it wasn't a failure. It was just moving him closer to the right set of, I don't even know what it makes a light bulb, but the right set of elements, ingredients, setup, everything that finally made it work. It's that, and he said himself, he failed his way to success. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, I get that, Sandy. I get that it's good to build up that wave, to be felling my tree, but I don't know what 5 steps to take. And this is where it kind of depends on you as well, because we might be doing completely different things. You might have a totally different project. I'm actually going to show you what my 10 steps are so that you can get some ideas. You can see what I do. But I would suggest that you, after this hangout, just get a blank piece of paper or open a note on your computer. Just write down my rule of 5 and see what comes to you, you know. And if you don't feel completely sure about it, this is what I did. I wrote it down and then I went to sleep. Not right away. I did this before I went to sleep, obviously. Just like, you know, then lie out at my desk. And well, I don't really work at a desk that often, but I didn't lie out on the terrace and then wait for the inspiration to come. I just did it before I went to bed. But I asked my subconscious mind and the universe to help me figure out a rule of 5 that would actually work, that would get me to where I wanted to go. And so this is what I came up with. And that process is something you can do. You know, we're part of the universe. We're part of, some people call it infinite intelligence or God, you know, out the source. There's all kinds of expressions for it, but we're part of it. So we can call on it, ask it for inspiration, for hunches, and we'll usually get an idea. So here's my rule of 5. You might be wondering, well, I mean, maybe you do know what I do, but basically I do 2 main things. I'm writing a book about youth financial literacy, and I also am an internet entrepreneur. So I help people develop an online business. I blog. I do online marketing. So these are the things that I do for my business rather than the book. So the first thing is I make a video every day and or a blog. You know, I don't blog quite as often. Videos are so easy and fun to make that I definitely, I make a video most days, except I have one day a week where I just unplug and spend it in nature as much as I can. So I'm not saying this is like 7 days a week, but at least Monday through to Friday, I make a video and I upload, I update my YouTube channel. Okay, so whether it's the same video or not, I make sure that I have some kind of video that would be suitable for my YouTube channel, and I put it on there because YouTube is one of the main ways in which I have traffic to what I do. Traffic is eyeballs, people looking at things you do on the internet. The third thing is that I share my video and my blog, if I've done a blog with the video, to at least 5 different places. So I syndicate it. So that could be, it could be sharing it to Google+, it could be sharing it to Facebook, to Twitter, to a slide sharing site. It depends on what you've created. But I make sure that every day I'm putting out little seeds of what I've done all over the internet. Because I know that the more I do that, the more I am creating bridges for people to find me. Okay, so I make sure that I do it to at least 5 different places. The fourth thing is I spend time on social media and I make sure to connect with at least 10 people. So what does that mean? It doesn't just mean hang out on Facebook. Sometimes it does. But I actually, and I started to do this quite recently. I had started and I stopped. And then I got so many senses that I should continue this, that I decided to keep doing it, is that I actually, as well as just going in and checking Facebook, I think we all do that to an extent, I actually put a timer on and I spend half an hour on Facebook, not necessarily posting my own stuff, but just making sure that I've responded to any comments on my stuff, to any messages I've received, to messages on my fan pages, and to just connecting with other people, so commenting on their stuff, maybe adding friends. But, I'm just basically, it's almost like nurturing your garden. If you're a gardener, each social media site that you use regularly, it's like one of your homes on the internet. So it's like going in and making sure that you're doing a bit of gardening, taking out the bad weeds, watering, and just being there. And I also do that with the internet, just finding people who are interested in the same things as me, and finding a way to connect with them on social media. So I like to look at other blogs in the same niches that I'm interested in, And so I spend half an hour doing that as well. And this is different from the sharing, which is more like marketing. This is more like connecting. So I make sure to do that. And what I didn't put on this list, I've just realized, is I also email my email subscribers. Not every single day. It kind of depends. If I get the sense I should, then I do. But I guess that would be sharing, part of sharing my video on my blog, because one of the ways I share it is to send it to my email list subscribers. And then the fifth thing is doing a hangout, for example, like this one, and coaching with my new members to the team that I'm building on the internet. So those are my 5 things. Does that mean that that's all I do? No. I also have projects that I work on. In fact, I usually do have projects. I'm quite a creative person, so I like to, I get ideas all the time. So for example, right now I'm working on a couple of videos as well as this, but I have I call it my DMO, you know, like my daily method of operation. And the funny thing is that this does not take hours and hours. And I found when I started to do this, and I think you'll have a mini breakthrough, what I'm about to say actually. I found that when I got very clear on the steps I needed to take every day, that my business got clearer. That rather than feeling like I had to wade through all this action I knew I had to take, and I'm a pretty hard worker, I don't mind doing what I've got to do, but sometimes when you want to be good at everything, you know, that you do, it can be easy to say, oh, there's so much I've got to do today, or, you know, have a long list. And so I found that when I did my rule of 5, it gave me, I could relax a little bit, you know, like relax my shoulders, relax in my business, because I knew that as long as I did these things, that I was moving forwards. And sometimes you might not feel like doing these things. And I found, especially in the beginning, it made me realize how I had been not as consistent as I thought I was, because I would do all my stuff on this list one day, and then the next day I'd be like, well, I did that yesterday. Why do I need to do it again today? And I realized, oh, hang on a minute. This is my rule of 5. You know, it can't be like a swing a week. It's got to be 5 swings a week at least, and doing it consistently. And the funny thing is that, you know, I got really inspired by one of my colleagues who's a stay-at-home mom, and she was saying that she doesn't allow herself the whole day to work on her business, because if she did that, she wouldn't be a stay-at-home mom. She would be a stay-at-home mom that works in a home office, because she'd still be sat behind a computer all the time. And so what she does, and has done all the time that I've known her, is she only gives herself 3 or 4 hours to work on her business. And she does pretty similar to what I'm sharing with you here. And learning from her really helped, because at one point with my business, I had to be very focused when I first started, because I was working late at night after dance classes, and I didn't have 12 hours a day to focus on this. But when I started to do this full time, I found it was easy to slip into this kind of semi-productive mode where you're kind of doing stuff, but you're kind of messing around, you know, reading stuff or checking Facebook. But then it feels like you're working all the time, you know, even though you're not like putting pressure on yourself. What I tended to find was that I wasn't spending as much time at the beach as I would like, or playing with my dog on the beach, or reading novels, which I love to do. You know, I was spending a lot of time semi-working. And so doing the rule of 5 really helped me to focus for a specific amount of time. And once I get into my DMO, it's like I'm in the zone. I don't allow myself to just hang out on Facebook or go off and do something else, like watching YouTube videos. I get really focused. Okay, I'm doing this. And I do that because I know it will give me freedom for the rest of the day and for my being, because then I'll know, okay, I've done what the minimum I needed to do. And if I've got other projects, then I'll work on them as well. And so that's really helped me become more productive, have more fun with what I'm doing, so I'm not spending all day on it, and get more clarity, okay? And you will start to see results. You know, when I started to do this, I remember one of my teammates contacted me and said, oh my God, you know, our team blog, where I had posted the blog and I was doing this strategy, and every single day I was sharing a blog post I'd written to a new 2 or 3 new places. It wasn't the only sharing I was doing, but I was doing this consistently for one long epic blog, and it was starting to have results because the blog was getting 100 hits a day from one of the places that I'd put this blog on. And you know, he contacted me and said, did you do that? I was like, yeah, that was me. And so, you know, this is really powerful because it will help you start to, especially if you're working online like me, or maybe, you know, you're working in the same work that I do. You know, I think this will really help you because then you'll start to get more of a focus. You'll have more time to play, to have fun, which makes your work more inspired. And people can sense that. People can feel it in what you're saying and what you're doing. And when they're watching you on social media, they can get a sense of it. So if you're an online person, then you can, you know, use this list to help to get you inspired about what to focus on. But, you know, maybe you're not online. Maybe you do something completely different. Maybe you're, for example, a massage therapist. What could your rule of 5 be? Well, something I wanted to make sure that you are aware of is be sure to include income producing activities, because it could be easy with creating a rule of 5 to make it things like, you know, like for example, me, I love to edit videos and write blog posts, and those are probably my 2 favorite things in my business to do, and film videos. But if I did that all day long, that was the only thing in my rule of 5, could you see where I would be missing out on a massive part of the equation? Because you can create beautiful blog posts and wonderful videos, but if very few people are seeing them, then it's not completely effective, is it? Because you're spending a lot of time on creative activities, but those activities aren't going to make you money necessarily because not enough people are seeing them. You know, Grant Cardone, author of the 10X rule, he says that entrepreneurs' biggest problem is obscurity. It's not money or time or any other issue. It's obscurity, not enough people knowing who you are. So you want to make sure that there's a big element of you connecting to other people in your rule of 5 is what I would say, especially if you're an entrepreneur. So for example, to go back to Jack Canfield's rule of 5, look at how many of their ones were connecting with other people. Almost all of them. 5 radio interviews a day, sending out 5 books, you know, that's connecting to new people, calling new TV network agencies, giving seminars to at least 5 people, following up with people who've read the book. You know, 4 out of 5 of those examples, just taking a sip of water here, are connecting with other people, marketing in other words. So if you're a massage therapist, to go back to that example, what if your rule of 5 was, it depends also, you probably wouldn't have this pressing deadline of getting a New York Times bestseller, but you could make a short YouTube video every day. The thing with the internet is you can kind of tell that Jack and Mark's list was done before the internet, because now the internet would give you so much, gives you so much leverage, you know, a leverage in the sense of you might need to send out 5 books to editors. You could make a blog post, send traffic to it, get people to look at it, and that would probably reach thousands of people as opposed to 5, you know? So if you're a massage therapist, you could be making a YouTube video every day with a short tip about keeping your body healthy or how to do self-massage or something like that. Have a channel. You could be contacting 5 new health centers and seeing if they need a massage therapist a day. You could be organizing, I'm trying to think of things here. You could be going online. I might go back to my examples because they're kind of more modern. You could be writing a blog post once a week about your massage practice and sharing it in different places every day. Doesn't mean you have to blog every single day like I do, but I would recommend doing something consistently so that people start to find you. If they type in massage into YouTube or massage in London, for example, if that's where you live, that you're one of the names that comes up because you have a blog which is being regularly updated, and Google recognizes new content. So I have so many examples of people I've met who market something on the internet which is completely not related to the internet, like a ski chalet, for example, or hairdressing services, you know. Even one of the guys that I follow online, Gary Vaynerchuk, he is a massive social media guru, and he started out as in his dad's wine shop in New York, a really simple, humble wine shop. And he had the idea, this was at the time that YouTube and Google were starting to get more and more popular. He created a wine channel, and he made a video every day about wine, tasting different wines, being kind of comical, and it became massively successful. He collected people's email addresses and started to deliver wine to people all over America. And so, you know, that's not exactly what a lot of people would have been doing at the time. Probably more are doing it now because he started doing it. But, you know, I really encourage you to be creative with your rule of 5. And one of the things from his example is consistency. He didn't just make a video once every 6 weeks or 7 weeks. He made a video every day, 5 days a week. And he did that for 6 years. Was it worth it? Yes, because his channel became popular with millions of people. He's now actually started his own social media company, helping companies to use social media in a social way rather than trying to like just spam everyone and tell everyone to do whatever they're doing. And his story is a great example of applying this rule of 5. Okay, so have a look at this. As I said, have a think about what your rule of 5 could be, and don't just think about it. I would say, you know, Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite mentors in all of this, he talks about the creative imagination and the synthetic imagination. And synthetic imagination is when you use your mind to think about things, and creative imagination is when you connect to infinite intelligence, the universe, the world, and you ask for help. Basically, you ask for inspiration, you ask for ideas, and you see what you receive. You know, it might not be right away. It could be in the night as you sleep. It could be the next morning you wake up and you've got, boom, a really clear idea. I find that often it comes when I'm out walking. For me, it's often when I'm walking by the sea or in the woods, out in nature. It's just easier to hear stuff and receive ideas. So I encourage you to do that and see what kind of rule of 5 you can come up with. And if you're thinking, well, how do I stay consistent for, you know, once I've got this rule of 5, what if I get bored after a month? The final thing that I will leave you with is that any habit, and this has been scientifically proven, any habit takes about 30 days to become easy. It's normal for a new habit to be difficult and boring and tedious because when you're doing new things, your brain is having to work harder, and that it's not a habit yet because your brain is literally going like woo, like this. You know, how do I know this? Because I read a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I'll just write this down, do a new slide here, and the book is brilliant. It's basically all about how I'm sorry, it's not letting me do much here. Okay, so the book is all about, I actually did one of these hangouts specifically on that book, so you can actually go back and watch that if you want. It's on this channel. It's called The Power of Habit, obviously. So what he found was that scientists, they put little machines into the brains of rats, and they wanted to test how rats make habits. How do they get, form habits like in the same way we do? And they put them in a maze, and at one end of the maze there was chocolate, and at one end there was a bell. And when they were let into the maze, the bell would ring, and they had to find their way to the chocolate. So the first week or so that they were doing this, the rats' brains were going crazy, like literally like this, really working a lot because they didn't know the maze, everything was brand new, they couldn't find their way to the chocolate. But what happened was that after a week or so, and after a few times of starting to find where the chocolate was, the rats would start to remember the way to the chocolate, and the brain would start to even out. And what happened was that the brain had formed a habit because they'd done it enough times that now the brain could remember what it had done to get to the desired outcome, which was the chocolate. So this is the same with us. So if you find that you create a rule of 5 after this hangout, but then after a week or so you're struggling to actually stick to it, then just remember that story about the rats, because because if you can get past the 30-day hump, I would say, it will honestly get so much easier, and it actually starts to become fun, because it's like you start to notice how you're getting better at it, how you're getting quicker, how you're starting to have results because you'll be taking consistent action. So it starts to feed itself. It's like that wave starts to be created. And I've personally experienced this with video blogging. When I started to video blog, I made videos every day for a year. And in the beginning, it was really hard. And I didn't want to do it every day. It felt like a chore, an obligation. And after 30 days, it literally, everything changed. It started to become a lot easier. Making the video, I realized it wasn't that difficult. And I would just fit it into my day. And I started to love the feedback I was getting from people, and love the sense of increased confidence I was getting from putting myself out there every day. You know, it was like I was building up this muscle of self-esteem. And so that became more addictive than the addiction of, oh no, I don't want to do this. So remember that as you implement your rule of 5, and if you don't have the self-esteem to know that you can do it, then I really encourage you to read as much personal development as you can, to realize that you have everything you need to make whatever you want to achieve come true. And I truly mean that. You know, you probably can't control exactly when or how long it will take or all the steps along the way, but you can it's just so obvious, you know. I mean, there are so many people who are living examples of this. If you truly desire to set out to do something, you will do it. Okay, I believe in you. I've experienced this myself. I've seen it so many times with colleagues and friends. So just know that you can, and realize that you just need to figure out what steps you're going to take to cut your tree. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to the hangout here before we finish. And just check whether there are any questions or anything. And I don't think there are. So, yeah. Okay, so if you have any questions about anything I've shared, then feel free to get in touch with me or leave a comment on the blog. And I would love to know if you create a rule of 5 and if it works for you. Let me know. It'd be great to get your feedback. And thank you for watching. And if you want to be working online, to be using the internet to help you work from wherever you want to work, or whenever you want to work, then click on the link around this video for more information about what I do, because my vision, my dream, what I'm working towards is creating an army of 1,000 change makers who can use the internet to have the time, the money, the freedom to really live in a way that makes you happy, but also have time and money to contribute to things. You know, I was an activist for 10 years, and I really would love to have this big network, this big team of people that, if we want to pay for a sea coral reserve to be repaired, or for some kind of environmental work, or whatever is required to be done, that we can all, you know, make it happen. So that's my vision. If you want to be part of it, then click on the link below this video, and you can get more information, or get in touch with me on Facebook or on Skype. But I tend to be much more on Facebook than Skype. And thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you next week. Have a great evening, everyone.